Well, folks, after 5 long years since its debut in November of 2019, the Tesla Cybertruck is finally ready to be reviewed. And here it is. You can love it or you can hate it, but I don't know if this review is going to change your mind either way. This is a truck that generates really, really strong opinions. It's hard to think of a more divisive vehicle being made right now. Is it the future? Is it a gimmick? Is it the irrelevant play toy of the billionaire that willed it into creation? These are questions we hope to review on this, well, review. Normally we'd start by driving the vehicle, but there's so much to talk about here on the exterior, I feel like I gotta show you guys around a bit before we hop inside. So, let me show you around. Let's start up here with the front. First of all, it's not really a revolutionary that an electric pickup truck has a front trunk. This one's kind of smaller than the Ford Lightning if you care, but everyone's not talking about that. We're talking about the fact that you can chop vegetables or your finger on this razor sharp edge when you close the front. Allow me to demonstrate. I'm not going to stick my finger in it, but if I did, it'd be a little bit shorter because that is so sharp. And generally, the stainless steel panel fitment is completely wacko all throughout this car. Big gaps, little gaps, gaps in height, gaps in fitment. It's all a bit mumbo jumbo up front and kind of throughout the car in terms of exterior fitment, but it is all actually stainless steel. Can you shoot it? Well, let's talk about the doors. Now, during the 2019 reveal, there were a lot of claims being made about the Cybertruck. I'll put some of the list here to show you that basically 40% of those actually ended up becoming true. Here's the list. Now, famously, the armored glass failed the demo, and today it's just regular glass. I wouldn't throw a ball bearing at it if you wanted to keep it around. But the original spec for the Cybertruck was being advertised as having stainless steel doors that were 3 millimeters thick, sufficient enough to stop a bullet. Now the production version, the body is 1.4 millimeters thick, except the doors, which are 1.8. Now that's actually still stout enough to resist penetration from a 9mm handgun round. Now, how do I say this? In Texas, that is a wimpy gun. Most guns will be able to penetrate this door, but true to their word, a 9mm cannot. So the door, bulletproof, kind of. But I'm not gonna shoot it because I'm renting this car through Turo. In fact, you can rent this exact same car if you choose. Now, Turo is basically Airbnb, but instead of renting other people's houses, you're renting other people's cars. This is a privately owned vehicle that I am renting for the week through Turo. There's insurance available through Turo, and really it's a great way to drive something that's way more fun than a rental car. I mean, why would you want to rent another sedan through Hertz when you could get one of these? It also allows you to kind of test drive cars that you might be interested in buying. Maybe you're thinking, I've always wanted to buy that 3-row SUV, but I've never driven one. You can rent it on Turo for a couple days and see if it's right for you. Now, back to the review. Now, the Tesla is made of giant flat panels, including this enormous windscreen. I can't even put my hands from one end to the other. And to wipe that windscreen, it has one wiper. And as you can see, it's very big. This has got to be the largest windshield wiper ever fitted to a production car. It's enormous. But unfortunately, we are in Texas and it doesn't rain much, so I haven't got a chance to try it out, but it does kind of move around at speed. When you're on the highway doing 70, 80 miles an hour, this does kind of go like that in the wind and you notice it. So it is a bit odd, but I haven't had a chance to really use it yet. But I had to point this out because it's ridiculous. And now let's talk about the bed, which I think many would agree is the heart of a pickup truck. It's kind of its whole job. Well, first of all, you have this enormous cover. This is kind of like structural. You could walk around it if you wanted to, but it's more for airflow. It keeps the airflow close to the Cybertruck and makes this vehicle more efficient than a Ford F-150. Its coefficient of drag is 0.38. Your average F-150 about 0.44. So it does kind of work. So press one of these buttons and this cover will roll back into like this compartment basically under what would be the rear window. And yeah, normally when you drive this around, you can't see out the back at all. press this button for the remote tailgate release, which is pretty standard on a pickup truck. The bottom of it is 6 feet long, but where it meets the window is not vertical. It kind of leans over. So if you measured it from this high, it'd be about 5.5 feet because it's not quite square in there. So could you fit some 6-foot sheets of plywood in it? Yeah, you could. You could even fit 8 feet if you want to come out of the bed a bit. Now, it doesn't fit that much in the bed because you can only put 1,300 pounds here, which is less than a conventional truck. Tesla will say you can fit like 2,500 pounds, but they're actually being cheeky and including things like the front trunk and the passenger compartment in the payload capacity of the vehicle. How much can you put right here in the cargo bed? 1,310 pounds. There's also some other nifty things back here. Like I like this full-length LED lighting. You have these like kind of configurable hook systems in case you want to tie things down and keep them from flopping around the bed. I also like that there's actually no wheel well intrusion. Usually in a pickup truck, the wheel humps kind of intrude into the bed space. Not here. It's kind of just straight up and down. And I think that's kind of cool, actually. I also like that it's lockable, and just like a Honda Ridgeline, you have additional storage and kind of a well back there for, well, whatever you'd like to keep back there, really. So closing this and closing our cover, I think we're finally about ready to start driving the Cybertruck. Well, welcome inside the Tesla Cybertruck. And as you can see, the interior doesn't look like most interiors that we know from trucks. There is only a gigantic touchscreen. That is it. There are no gauges hiding here. It's all one giant touchscreen and a squircle. There's not even turn signal stalks. There's nothing on the column at all other than the wheel. So let's get into the screen, which is the heart of this truck, really. So first of all, we can control all of our exterior functions right here through the touchscreen. So opening and closing the tonneau, opening and closing the front. You can open the tailgate with the touchscreen, but you have to close it with your hands. You can also adjust your ride height. So we are in medium ride height because it looks good on photos, but we'll put it down to low for better efficiency. Drops it down. That's pretty cool. The other thing is that all your car functions are this enormous touchscreen. Oh my God, I have never seen so many menus in my entire life. None of this has any haptic feedback at all. And things like the headlights are on the touchscreen. Things like the glove box are on the touchscreen. Everything is on the touchscreen. So if you're one of those people that like, oh, I like physical buttons for things, I think you can look somewhere else. In fact, put my foot on the brake, even the shifter is on the touchscreen. There's drive, there's reverse, there's park. Everything is here, including things like the climate, which, you know, is kind of cool, like this touchscreen climate. I can direct where the airflow goes. Like, that is very novel. Like, that's pretty nifty, actually. The native navigation system is probably the best I've ever used. It's so fast, it's very intuitive, and I like using it. It's genius, actually. I love this native nav system. I have no complaints. Let's go to the toy box while we're parked before we get going. We will get going eventually, I promise. My 10-year-old cousin's favorite joke is the fart machine here. You can send a fart around the cabin. And these are the things that car companies really need to be working on, honestly, because this is just fabulous. It has other, doodle things, like you have a sketch pad. Yeah, I made that myself. Actually, my 10-year-old cousin drew the truck. I think he did a pretty good job. If you look, I think he about matched it. I'm impressed. But these are just little knick-knack things the Cybertruck has, which are, kind of fun. There's kind of our audio selection. And you also have all these apps. The app integration is really good. Like, Spotify has never looked better in a screen than it does here. That's really, really good stuff. I like that. This car, would you believe it, was designed by a man named Franz Holzhausen, very German name. And he worked on the design of the Volkswagen New Beetle. He led the design of the amazing Mazda Furai concept racing car, and he did every single Tesla that came after the Roadster. So basically not the Lotus Roadster one. Everyone that came after was him. And this is him as well. So the guy has a pretty ridiculous resume and a lot of range. The idea he had for this truck, which he said was his most complicated and challenging design project ever, was to work backwards from the needs of truck consumers and build them the truck they actually need. Okay. Anyways, we're gonna find out how accurate that is and finally get going. I'm tapping the brake, I'm putting it in drive, and immediately it's weird because that's as far as the wheel turns. That's going full right. And once we get out here, I'll go full left. That's it. There's no hand over hand, and so the squircle wheel actually makes sense here because you'll never need more than 9 and 3 on this wheel. And it does that because this is the first car to have steer by wire. After this steering wheel, there's no mechanical linkage driving and steering the front wheels. It's all motors and servos. So when I'm moving faster, the steering is less sensitive, so I don't fly all over the place. And when I come to do a U-turn, it's becoming more sensitive, so I could just spin around right as I need. So I'll just turn the wheel a little, whoop, right around I go, full lock. That is helped by the fact that it has rear steer. The rear wheels do turn in this car for increased mobility. I don't have to put my foot on the brake between reverse and drive. And just like that, we're on the go. I would say that the two hardest things to get used to about driving the Cybertruck, number one is the steering. It doesn't steer like any car I have ever driven. The complete freedom that they have to vary the steering ratio at will makes it like kind of intuitive, but you're just not used to cars reacting like this. And I actually found it challenging to park the Cybertruck because with the rear steer and the steer by wire, it's not really how I'm used to parking a vehicle. Now, they make two versions, a 2-motor and a 3-motor. This is the wimpy 2-motor with only 535 horsepower. So we'll come to a stop for the brake. Are you ready? Here we go. Yoink. And that is 0 to 60 in about 4 seconds. Some magazines like Motor Trend have tested them as fast as 3.8. Some are around the mid 4s. I think we'll call it 4 seconds. It's quick. It's not like a dragster, but it is crazy to me that we just did 0 to 60 as fast. That's the horn. You hear that? Sounds like an error message. It is crazy to me that this is as fast as a TRX, and it doesn't feel like it. Just put your foot down and keep zooming. Yeah, it's quite muscular, and I can't imagine what it's like to drive the 845 horsepower tri-motor Cyberbeast, because that must be really wild. We're gonna navigate the chicane up here. Oh, coming into my first turn. There's no turn signals. I press these buttons. There's one on the top and one on the bottom. And those are my turn signals. As I'm driving, the air suspension is raising and lowering the car to meet my needs. It's lowered for sporty handling. It raises up for off-road driving. It's pretty intuitive, actually. Let's get going here. Pretty fast. Now, on the road, here I'll gauge Autopilot. Okay. Put on my sunglasses. This is an Autopilot equipped vehicle. They now make you like torque the wheel a bit. You can't just drive hands-free forever. And it's still the gold standard in terms of self-driving systems. But even then, I want to reiterate, you do still have to pay attention when you're driving. It's not full self-driving, even though that's what they call it, but anyways. It's really like the gold standard in terms of self-driving. I just wish they wouldn't let you engage it practically everywhere. You press that button, it'll do it anywhere. I like things like the Cadillac system, which are geo-fenced to highways. And it does feel a little strange to me to not be driving on scenarios where I wish I kind of was, but we'll try it out. Press the button, and we are autopiloting. And like I said, compared to the other systems, like the Cadillac one especially, Ford Blue Cruise, this is the smoothest. It's the smoothest, it's the smartest. It's really, really amazing. And I have not driven a autopilot vehicle in like 5 years, and it is so, so impressive. Now the other thing, I'm going to deactivate that and go back to driving. The other thing is that once you're kind of at speed, we're doing 50 miles an hour here, I can hear a lot of electric things happening that I wasn't expecting. I hear the front motor. Here, I'll get on a little. That's not like fake noise. I can hear the front motor working, and I hear a lot of like road noise from tires, and this is the weird thing. I swear I hear it from the front end of the vehicle. It's like the trunk is, a front trunk, isn't sealed or something, and I hear all this road thing happening in here in the cabin. You might like hearing all the various systems of the truck. I can hear the steering rack moving. I can hear the big knobby tires on the ground. I can hear the motors working. That's kind of cool. Maybe you'd find that annoying and unacceptable in a car that's like $100,000, which is another thing. Back in November of 2019, which by the way, same month and year that Blade Runner was set in. If you don't know what Blade Runner is, it's a movie in which the uber-rich, large corporations and unchecked capitalism have led to the ecological destruction of Earth, in which the rich upper class try to flee to Mars, and artificial intelligence threatens to take over the human race. It's far-fetched, but try to imagine it. Other like actual car things, the ride is really, really good. It might be the best riding truck I've driven. It's got four-wheel independent suspension. That really helps it. And it doesn't drive anything like the Ford Lightning. The Ford Lightning drives like an F-150 with electric power. This drives more like an electric CUV than a pickup truck. It just doesn't feel very truck-like behind the road. And that can be a good thing because trucks kind of suck to drive usually. The other surprise is that visibility in the three directions, side to side and forward, are excellent. Better than most trucks. The fact that I don't have a big long hood with a V8 engine under it means I can actually kind of see down in front of me. That's like the fatal flaw of pickup trucks, is that a 9-year-old could run out in front of you and you won't see them if you're within a mile of them because the hood's so tall. That's actually brilliant. I like it. And I haven't had trouble making lefts, you know, because the pillars are way out there. I can kind of see where I want to go and spot my line. Visibility out the back is worthless. Tesla doesn't even try to give you a rear view. What I have is this thing on the screen, which is a camera on the tailgate looking backwards. Because of the tonneau cover, I can't see out the back. And even if I open the tonneau cover, the shape of the tailgate means I wouldn't see much farther than that anyways. So that is just a Tesla quirk. Can it do truck stuff? Well, you can tow with it. It can tow 11,000 pounds. A little less with the triple motor version because it's heavier, but you can tow quite a big amount with it. Now, in normal driving without a trailer, without hauling anything, you have about 320 miles of range. It varies, but I was able to beat that estimate without really trying on my loan with it, so it's got quite a bit of range. However, load this baby up to the max towing capacity and your range will drop to like 70 miles. So you could pull a boat out and drive it to your house, but you're not gonna like take a road trip towing an Airstream with this thing. It doesn't have the availability. Tesla says they're going to come out with a range extender. It's dealer installed. It's like a big battery pack that goes in the bed, but like, I'll believe it when it happens because this truck took 5 years to arrive. So can you tow with it? Yes, for short distances. Can it go off-road? Well, I think so. It has big chunky tires. It has air suspension that lifts it up. It does actually have 16 inches of ground clearance in its highest extract mode. It should be able to do okay. Of course, its immense weight, it is 6,669 pounds, is going to work against it. And taking a peek under it, there's not like a ton of skid plates or anything under here. So like if you really take it off-roading, you're probably gonna tear it up. but like the handling for a truck is just like friggin' bananas, honestly. Here's a turn at speed, pull it in, a lot of mass, but man, it just goes right through it. And it feels so precise with the electric steering. It's actually crazy. I've never driven anything this big that felt so agile. The styling, we need to talk about this. This is low polygon. It is Blade Runner inspired. It is a very distinct look. In fact, I think this is like the first radical new design since like the Countach. Everyone, I've had this over Thanksgiving weekend here visiting my family in America. Everyone kept asking me, what does it do? Why does it look like that? And I keep telling them it looks like that because it looks like that. Like its whole job is to look like this. Like think of the Plymouth Prowler. That was not a sports car, it was not a race car. What was it? It was style. The entire vehicle was built to look like that, and everything else was superfluous to that function. I think, despite our friend Franz's earnest intentions, that this is the same. This is a look, and they have designed around the look best they can to create a competent product. But I don't think its wacky styling is adding much to the functionality of the vehicle, other than the excellent frontal view. That, I'll give them that. The front view is great, and that is something that most trucks are really, really bad at. So that's pretty good. But in terms of like it's scratch resistant, dent resistant, whatever, I mean, sure, but it's also not smudge resistant. It's covered in fingerprints. You can't do anything about that. I don't know if the stainless panels are adding practicality to the equation here. Now, this is the opinion column section of the program, but I should say that ideologically, this car plays into a darker self-image of America, one in which we need to drive cars that, according to Elon, are inspired by armored personnel carriers of the future, that have a bioweapon defense mode, that look like cars from a dystopian future. And it's a bit antisocial of a statement to drive one, I think, and despite the intense novelty, it does point towards a darker conscience. I don't think I would own one because I don't like what it says about me. And while I have owned one during this week of testing, people have made wild assumptions about me, about my politics. People have assumed what I am about by seeing this truck. And they go all over the place, from Yogurt, California assumptions to Gun, Texas assumptions. This car says a lot about you, and you might not like what it is. Maybe you don't care. I mean, Elon certainly doesn't GAF, because look at this thing. He willed it into creation, it's real, it's here, and it's actually, despite his best intentions, quite good. So that is my take on the Tesla Cybertruck. It is a fabulously new idea. It is a newest, most original design we've had since the Countach. As a design piece, it says big things. It's very fresh. I like that. As a truck, it is surprisingly usable. It does skew more towards the city truck owner than, like, shall we say, a contractor, but honestly, most trucks are for the city life. It's surprisingly livable. It features real innovations, and there is a lot of substance to back up its flash. I would say, overall, I am quite impressed by the Cybertruck. Of course, it is somewhat burdened by its various gimmicks and gewgaws, but that's just kind of the Tesla way. But overall, I'm quite positive on the Cybertruck, and while I don't think it's going to spark a revolution in pickup truck design, it is really refreshing to see a completely new take on the pickup truck. For Driving.ca, I'm Clayton Seams, and don't forget to check out our full review on the website.